Welcome to the 317 podcast. Tonight, our main focus, our main topic is going to be the power of confidence. So yeah, let's just get into it.
Yeah, man. So I've been reading this interesting book by Dr. Nate Zinzer called The Confident Mind. The Confident Mind, let's see, it says the battle-tested guide for unshakable performance. It's really cool. This guy's he's a sports therapist, and like he mainly sports therapist,
Right.
but like he talks in there about the voice in our head, right? We all have it. And for me, this book really shook my understanding of that, because for the most part, the voice in my head and how I speak to myself isn't very nice. It's like just kind of like punching myself in the top of the head, like,
Yeah.
get it right, you know?
Yeah.
And what he talks about is like how important it is to control that voice. And it really spoke to me in a very spiritual way because of just like reading through this book and remembering scriptures. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about that's proven by science is in the Bible too,
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, well, why didn't I already knew all this? But because there's the science behind it now, and you see the fruit of it, because he's helped people win Super Bowls, people win like Olympic gold medals, and just
Right.
incredible things like this. And in I'm sure like in everybody's lives, like we all have a place where we're trying to get somewhere, we have a goal, but we're not talking to ourselves the right way. You know, we don't have
Right.
that
Yeah.
confidence.
For sure.
What I thought was interesting too in the book is how he describes society's take on confidence versus what it actually is, right? So like, for example, me, I've always been one to really express my humility, right? Like, hey, to be humble, you know, be humble. The Bible says like if you're not humble and you're proud, like he's gonna bring you down a peg. So that's bad, right? Like, but that and having a confident mind are two different things, man. And like
Yeah.
it was really reassuring and empowering to me to read that just because I'm not the loud guy in the room, just because I'm not the guy that's like Muhammad Ali telling everybody how I
Right.
can, you know,
The super extrovert.
yeah,
Yeah.
just because I'm not super extrovert doesn't mean that I can't be confident.
Right.
Right.
It sounds simple when it's coming out of my mouth, but reading it, it was like, wow, you know, it was really nice.
Well,
Dude.
saying it and living it are different.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, one's definitely easier to just say it. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah. And reading the whole book really brought me back to David and Goliath, right? Before David actually faced Goliath, and he was bringing his brothers some cheese, right, at
Right.
the battlefield. And so he gets there, he sees Goliath, and he says, well, I'll take you down. All the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And everybody else around him says, dude, you can't look at us. We're warriors. You're just a kid. And I love what David says to them. He remembers what he did back in the woods where nobody was looking. He says,
Right.
the Lord saved me from the bear and the lion, right?
Yeah.
And he Dr. Nate talks about like whenever you're about to face something like challenging, remember your past triumph.
Right.
Yes.
Remember 'em.
Yes.
And write them. He says to write them down, write a list of them. And
deposit them in your bank account, right?
yeah,
Something like that. Yeah.
exactly. Like make your bank account full of that confidence so
There
that you
go.
can spend it, right?
Yeah, so you can withdraw it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, dude, that's cool.
yeah, dude.
I
It
like
was
that.
so like mind changing because it's David and everybody's telling him, hey, you can't do this. In fact, they're telling him like to put on the armor that you know that everybody
Right.
wears. But he says, I've already got these victories with what I have.
Right.
I don't
Right.
need any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, dude, that's why those books, those stories are so ahead of their time, man. Because
Yeah.
even like it's proven scientifically
Right.
that what David did back then will help you perform at your best.
Yeah,
like
man.
remembering your past
Heck
victories,
yeah.
remembering what God has done in your life. You know?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to you guys and like kind of see where it goes,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's been very important to me. And I remember with everything, like playing guitar and trying to get better at, like when we were in our own metal band and trying to get my skills sharpened. I was always my harshest critic, man. And I remember doing great things. Like I remember reading this book. I remembered when we were at Crush Studios. You guys remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't have distortion for guitars.
Yeah.
You guys remember that?
Yeah.
And I hit every pinch harmonic with a clean track.
Yeah.
And it sounded terrible.
It did.
It was bad. Yeah. But I hit every pinch harmonic, and it's so hard to do that.
Yeah.
Without dirties, you know?
Yeah.
So in that moment, I should have seen that as a victory.
Right,
In my mind, I should have changed the narrative of what I saw and said, I'm skilled enough to do this. The biggest takeaway from this is like, you're skilled enough. Like once you put in all the work and once you've attained the skill and all that stuff, stop telling yourself that you're not worthy of the thing.
Right.
Go in there with all the confidence because you got memories and you've put in the time.
Yeah.
So do it. Stop beating your head over it. That you can't.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And one thing
It's
I
so
think
good.
a lot of times the pit Christians fall into, not that I'm saying you're doing this, but just the way you phrase something made me think of it, is when you were talking about David going up against the lion and against the bear, you said that God saved me from them, but what he says is God delivered them into my hands. He still
better.
took, he
That's
still took
good,
action
dude.
and got the victory. And I think that's where a lot of Christians miss it, is like, they take it too little, or take it literally when one of our pastors here always says, your best plus God's grace equals, more than enough. And I think a lot of people just go, well, God's grace is more than enough. And while it's not designed it's not designed to coast you through life. It's designed to just cover what you yourself are unable to cover.
Yeah.
And you're never going to move beyond where you're at if you're not putting in your best first,
That's so good.
Because it's not God's grace plus my best. It's my best plus God's grace. Sorry, I'm getting weird with enunciation, or at least it sounds weird to me right now.
Oh, you're good.
Something's going on.
Makes perfect sense, dude.
Yeah. So it's like, if you build a house out of brick or whatever, or out of logs, we'll say, there's going to be gaps in it no matter what you do. So God's grace fills those gaps.
That's good.
But if you are unable to do anything, like if you're unable to accomplish anything on, in your best before, you rely on God's grace. And by that, I just mean taking steps, not finish, everything. Then what have you learned from what God has put in front of you? What struggles have you learned from? Essentially probably just laid it down and just cried about it or whatever, So that's really good, man. I do really like this topic.
Nice.
I mean, think about Noah, right? I mean, God gave him the measurements, told him what to make the ark out of.
Yeah.
He told him like around the time that everything would need to be done, told him that no one would listen. He gave him all of the tools. But how long did it take Noah to build the ark?
Right. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was years.
100 years?
Couple years.
It's been a long time.
It was a minute. It took a minute.
It took him a while to build this thing. So God definitely delivered the ark to him.
Yeah.
It was right at his feet, but he had to sit there and work. He had to build. He had, and some of those days I'm sure he did not want to do anything. He didn't want to lift a beam that was like 30 times his weight. So it's like, I love this topic because the topic of confidence is interesting when you talk about confidence in terms of biblical context, and then in terms of what it does for us as humans. Like there's a difference between our faith in confidence and our, human statutes, as, those being what we obtain through victories in our life. And it's like, if you account all of your victories like we do, a godly thing, God victory, like then we give him all the glory and all the honor in that. And it's like I love thinking about I think it's either in Hebrews or in Romans. I can't remember, but the last time I did a study on this, it was interesting that they say it's your confident expectation in the Lord's return. That is literally what our faith is.
That's cool, man.
It's talking about the faith of the great people, men and women of faith, right? It goes through a bunch of people, and it's either Peter or Paul. I always get them mixed up. He's like, time would escape me if I went through all of the people and great men and women of faith. So he gives an account of a few of them, and then he goes, it's not about the faith that they had. It's about the confidence that they had in the faith. They had this unwavering confidence in who God is and who they are in God's charge. Faith came out of that confidence. And it's interesting because I was like, okay, so what is faith? I have a diary that I have listed as stupid questions. So, dude, I mean, the most basic of basic questions that I feel like aren't answered a lot of times in church, so it's like, what is faith? And I asked that, I was like, all right, I mean, if I want to know more about what faith is, I'm going to ask God, what, and he pointed me to that. And it was like, it's so interesting because it talks more about the unseen attribute of God, which is the confidence that all these people had. The men and women of great faith saw nothing that they achieved. They died. They died in horrible ways.
Right.
But they paved the way for everything in Scripture to happen, for Jesus to happen,
Right.
So it's like, it's in the confidence part. It says that to have that confidence in the Lord's return.
Yeah.
That is, in the end, that's the end all be all Christian mindset we need to have. That's how you get rid of temptation. That's how you get rid of sin in your life, is the upward expectation and confidence in Christ coming back. Right. That's it. That's literally it. So it's just like, dude, I love this topic.
It's really cool that he talks about also prophesying to yourself, which is it's faith,
Right.
But he talks about it in terms that are more like tangible, right? So he talks about goals and how he got his athletes to perform at their best. And he said that one of them, I think it was a 800 meter racer who said that she wanted to beat her time or something.
Okay.
So every time that she went through a door, she'd have to repeat something to herself, like, I'm going to get this time.
Oh, dang.
And then she got it. Like when she went and raced, and she got that. And he kept saying, prophesy to yourself. And dude, I took that, man. And I every time I'm at the gym parking lot now, every time I'm at the gym parking lot, or every time I'm at my job site parking lot, I'll write, I love benching 315, and I love squatting 405, and I love deadlifting 500. Those are my goals.
Dang.
And he's really helped me to put my mentality from a place of, well, I don't know, like that's not going to happen too. It's going to happen. And I'm so sure that it is, that I love how that weight feels in my hands,
Dang.
And at work too, like tinting colors and getting colors to match, that takes a lot of confidence. And it's a mind trip when a color doesn't go right and you have to paint it again. It'll just make you fall, dude.
I'll bet, yeah.
And so at work, I do the same thing, dude. Like I've created something that puts me in that mood to where I can perform at my best because I have confidence and I have faith that I'm able to achieve these things,
Amen.
Of course, through God. Like I put God, like he doesn't mention God, but because we're men of faith, it's hard not to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's something I've been working with my daughters on. Actually, my older daughter, Evie, is she just kind of comes by that naturally. She's very explorational. She loves being active and all that. And so when something when something's hard for her, she just kind of doubles down and just kind of, puts her shoulder into it and does it. Whereas Abby is more, she's the love bug of the two, so she's very much a, like, that's a little uncomfortable. I'm just gonna go talk, hug my dad or whatever, metaphorically or literally. And so if what was it? I don't remember what specifically it was, but she goes, "Dad, I'm just not good at that." I said, "Don't say that." I said, "You haven't practiced it."
Yeah.
She's like, but I'm not good at it. I said, "Yeah, you will be once you practice it." Cartwheels, I think, is what she was talking about. And so then, then whatever, she didn't keep doing cartwheels, but she didn't keep talking about it. She's 5, so it just moved on.
Yeah.
And was it last night? I think it was last night. She goes, "Dad," or not. She's like, both of my girls, they love making their parents watch them do stuff. As a parent, many of you parents out there will know it's not generally that impressive, whatever they have to show you. But she did a cartwheel much better than she'd ever done it. And she did it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And she looks up, she goes, "I've been practicing."
Dang.
And I was like, "Yeah, there you go."
So cool.
And then today she said something else. She's like, "I'm not good at that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's, not cartwheels, talking about something else.
It's gonna happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the difference, so I wasn't raised with that specifically. It was just, don't be negative. Don't be negative about yourself. So that definitely helps.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as specific of an instruction as, like this book, and what I've seen in my own life. And I'm talking to, my girls, or I'm teaching my girls. It's already, you can see the difference that it's making, just, it's not about where you start, because we're all going to start at the bottom unless you're, a
super
freak
gifted
savant at something, but then you're just good at that one thing,
Yeah,
then there's other stuff you're still going to have
You were
to start
born
at the
for
bottom.
this.
Right. But then everything else, like cooking or whatever, if that's not your thing, you start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's been really, it's taught me, watching the effect it has on them has been inspiring and educational for me to start doing that with myself, because
Wow.
I've always been very realistic. Like,
Okay.
you guys remember when we were teenagers, or when we, were younger, I was just the very, responsible, realistic guy.
Yeah.
I didn't get carried away usually one way or another. And that carried into my adult life, which has helped me deal with pain and discomfort and whatever, like, well, you don't give into it. You just, whatever, you take the hit and you keep on moving. But on the positive side too, it's like, okay, well, don't get too worked up about it, because, these things are rarely going to be as good, and then I talk myself down that way too. So it kept myself in a very, I don't know, very realistic path, on both sides of it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know, you're not down in the valley, but you're not up on the mountain.
Yeah.
You're just stuck on the cow path going around the thing, just around and around. So it's been interesting. And then you suggested this book 3 weeks ago, I think, about.
Yeah.
I didn't make it all the way through, but I got most of the way through. I think I have 2 chapters left.
I gotta read it, man.
Because it's just dense, and it's not like it's long, but there's so much packed in, especially as you get into the, from like the 3rd chapter on, it's real like thick, and you can just read through it, but like to do the exercises and stuff, that's what kind of slowed me down.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
But yeah, it was good, man. It's real good. Yeah.
And I like how we talked about the cow path and all that stuff, and he really talks about just encouraging your own thoughts and your own mind to really elevate themselves not from a societal standpoint of like, well, don't think of yourself too highly. Don't think of yourself as that you can actually achieve something that nobody else can. That's, don't
get cocky, kid.
Yeah, don't get cocky.
Yeah, dude.
Like, he's like, no, live in that place. Like, live in that, he calls it like a fantasy place, because like, you're going to hold yourself back, really, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
You got everything else holding you back. Why would you add to it? Why would you add yourself to that list?
Oh my gosh. It felt so comforting to read that, right? Because like your whole life. And I don't know if nobody's really ever said to me like, dude, come on, bro, like chill. But it's kind of like one of those unwritten rules in society, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially growing up at least, me growing up in the more formative years in Mexico, that's
a huge cultural thing in Mexico, dude.
And it's
beat you down.
Well, especially with the men, it's like part of being a man is like, like, all right, man, you be tough, be a man, chill out, like don't get too crazy, because it's much more satisfying to watch that guy fall off of his high horse than it is for you to try to get on your own.
Dang.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, so if you experience something similar, I would imagine you did in growing up. I mean, that forces you into that very much, like, okay, I'm going to have to work hard and I'm not going to try to achieve much. You know what I mean? Like, keep it real realistic.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Totally.
Yeah.
I remember for me, it was like, because I learned both Spanish and English at a very young age naturally, I didn't have to go on, what is that, like
hooked on phonics,
Rosetta Stone or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have to do all that.
Right.
So it was real natural for me when I was speaking Spanish and I had an English word to say, I would say it in my American accent.
Oh, right.
In English, And they're like, oh, why would you say it like that? Like, dude, why are you using that American accent? Like, why can't? And I'm like, in my own mind, I'm like, well, now I got to speak broken English.
Yeah.
When I'm speaking Spanish.
Now I got to sound dumber just to make you feel better. Yeah. I do the same thing, but opposite. Like if there's a Spanish word that comes up, like you may have noticed this about me. Like I'm talking about Mexicali, Mexico, or Mexicali.
Yeah.
It just whatever happens to come out, because I kind of train myself like, okay, people are going to ask you to translate if they even think that you're a white guy that can speak Spanish.
Yep.
So I try to, like, or going into like a taco shop or whatever, like, all right, how am I going to play this? Am I speaking Spanish or am I speaking English? Do they look like the type of person that's going to get offended if they think that I think they can't speak English? Here we go.
Dude, that's funny.
Which a trick to do that, if you don't want to offend somebody, if you're worried about that, just speak to them back in the language they're speaking to you, even if they're talking broken. Like for me, if they talk to me in broken English, I'm like, all right, we're talking English,
Yeah. Same here.
Dang, man.
That's a little off topic.
Something that this makes me think of is like the battlefield of the mind. This whole thing, like you can always see the people that just weigh themselves down in their mind, like that's always been a problem that I've had, like growing up, was defeating myself first before the opponent even threw the first punch.
Dude, that's the whole book talks about, winning the first victory,
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, like, have you guys heard the saying of like two boxers enter the ring, one has already won before they even enter? It's a mentality, right?
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Dude, and that's kind of how, like, growing up I kind of was that way, I was just like,
same here.
I don't know, it kind of made me pessimistic in a lot of ways, and very pessimistic towards myself. And it's like such a hurdle to get over sometimes, but then you realize like what confidence does for you. And man, it really, really plays a pivotal role in molding you as a person.
Right.
Like, because I feel like you don't see who you really are until you decide to take your life in your own hands, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
good.
Once you do, you realize what you as a person can accomplish.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're speaking as Christians. And if you do that in a way where God is first, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing having confidence in God and who you are in God. And just watching him open doors left and right and things just happen because you're there.
Right.
You're like, all I really have to do is show up and do the work set in front of me, and God, like, truly takes care of the rest. Not to say there's not hardships, and a lot of them, but I mean, heck, you're going to be better off in every way with God.
The author gives an example of a brain surgeon and what he speaks to himself before going into the operating room, and he lists a few things, and then he also lists God. God help me to guide my hands, and so that I can help this person live a more fulfilling life, without pain or discomfort. And that's so powerful, right? Like to insert that omnipotent God, that the all powerful God to just help you, and then you with all the confidence in the world, regardless of like, okay, it might things are gonna happen, we don't live in a perfect world, but
Yeah.
if you have that confidence mentality, you will be a million times better at figuring out the solution to those issues. Because if you're going into it pessimistically, like like we both have, like, dude, I'm already on the ground.
Yeah.
So seeing this thing go wrong was like, oh, I knew it. Well, see,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, there's nobody else around. You're just talking to yourself.
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
See, tear.
Yeah.
Right.
See, one thing that I'm a Christian, but I hate it when Christians say, without God, I can do nothing. What do you call the Tower of Babel? Yes, God created them, but they did that all up. They got so far that God was like, I gotta mix this up, or there's nothing they can't do. Why would God create
that's such a good
just
point,
a bunch
man.
of ineffectual lemmings?
Yeah.
He made us in his own image. So to say I can do nothing without him is not, that's inaccurate, and it's insulting to God, I feel.
To his creation.
Because why else would he give us the ability to learn, the ability to do, the ability to reason, if we can do nothing without him?
Right.
I firmly believe everything you do should be done with him and through him, but it's just a lie to say I can't do anything without him.
Yeah.
I understand it comes from a heart of submission and a heart of acknowledging that he's the all-powerful God. And that's true. But don't insult him by insulting yourself, because you're his image,
That's good.
And that's, I don't know, that's something it hadn't bothered me until we started talking about this, or until we started looking at this topic. It's like, oh my God,
Wow.
how many Christians are out there doing nothing because they keep telling themselves that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just hear that over and over.
If you were sent out to minister
Mm.
into a, just a country,
Mm.
you got a full country.
Yeah.
You're sent there to minister, but God stops speaking to you once you hit the ground.
Right.
What do? Are you just going to stand there and wait to hear from God's voice, hear from God, in some way? Or are you going to do what he gave you the ability to do? Like, he gave us the word. If you don't have a Bible, it should be written on the tablet of your heart and in here.
And if you're going to minister to another country, you should bring a Bible.
You should. Yeah.
I get your point, though.
Yeah, no, it should always be in you and with you. Like, when you speak to people about God, it should just come out of you naturally, And it's just like that. I feel like that's how God made us. He gave us a mission, he gave us a purpose, and he gave us a reason. Like, the reason is to win souls, to convert people, and to ultimately save them from damnation.
Right.
Like, so we have we have something to do. Every Christian has something to do.
Right.
If you feel like if you say that you can't do anything without God, and I hear a lot of like, without God first, like, without God telling me anything, I can't do anything. And it's like, I hear you in that, but if you're not doing anything, then you're ineffective.
Right.
You're a tool that is rusting in the cupboard. You're like, you might as well not even be a tool anymore. You're just useless.
No, you're some kind of tool.
Zing. No, it's just one of those things that you don't really think about or word out. Like, you just said you didn't really think about it until this topic, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, let's if anything, just sharpen iron. Like, go to another brother and talk. God, like, have the Holy Spirit just begin to minister and do something.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the deeper messages behind this that I got was like, the scripture says, bring every thought captive to Jesus,
Yep.
And it's so real that Jesus wants you to have that confidence, that you can have that confidence in him and in your ability, because it's like you're laboring with Jesus, right? With God. It's like you need to have that confidence because he had it in you first. He had that love for you first, and he gave, like, he's not just gonna do it like maybe no, it's he had the confidence that you were gonna come to him when he chose you, right?
Yeah.
So why not, dude? Like, it's
tell him, man.
So powerful. Like, bring every thought captive, and what is it, to the obedience, or is that just like I'm terrible at remembering scripture? But I kind of get, I get the idea, I get the point behind it, and anything that hinders my performance or hinders my thought of myself, or my love for myself, isn't of God, man.
Right? Yeah.
Like, it's not. And if it's something that's, now let's be clear, if it's something that suddenly starts to make me feel to where like, oh, now I'm, more important, or that's different, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's something else. That's
if it takes
narcissism.
you out of humility, it's definitely not of God.
Exactly. Like, think about what you're thinking about, like, where are you at? What are the what's the end result of it? Like, what's the fruit of it, kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I just want to make that distinction because it's very easy to confuse the two things, like you find somebody that can easily lean towards that thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, now we're just going off into another subject. Like, I feel like a mind like that will find anything and, go that way.
Yeah, dude. I mean, those were different groups of people in the Bible, that would upset what the apostles were trying to teach.
Yeah.
They would go basically gathering to gathering and just like start, sowing little pieces of narcissism and all kinds of stuff, and just trying to like take away everything that God gave, that the Holy Spirit brought, which, I mean, the three things that he gave was power, love, and a sound mind.
Yeah.
Dude, sound mind.
Dang, dude.
That right there is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just like he gave us all the tools to stand apart from everything of the world, everything of the enemy, every kind of destruction or distraction. Like, it says that any word that even starts to like declare against God at all, anything that starts to set doubt in your mind is demonic. That's
double-mindedness too, right?
It's insane. Like, all of this is having that confidence in us, having that confidence in God, and doing with what we have, like doing what he wants with what we have. And that's, the gifts that he's given us.
Yeah.
And now all scientifically proven.
Right.
Right.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's cool. I love it when that stuff, when it becomes so obvious, that even science can't deny it. You know what I mean?
That's good. Well
or
said.
science proves
Take
that.
that, Bill Nye.
Yeah. Yeah. This guy's a joke. Just kidding. He's an engineer. He's not a scientist by any stretch, but he is an engineer. Gotta give him that.
He got grumpy though, didn't he? I miss old Bill now.
Yeah.
Where's your little rat friend, bro? Jerk now.
Dude. Oh.
That's good, man. We sorry, were you gonna
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think I mentioned this last time. Which, by the way, sorry that the last episode came out so late. It's just been a crazy week trying to get everything. I work at a church, getting everything ready for Easter, all the marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
Just took up a lot more time than I expected.
Easters.
But just remembered that. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So thank you for your patience with that. But I mentioned in that one a discipleship program that we're piloting right now at our church. And through that, I don't think that this was specifically talked about the week, but through doing the work during the week, the homework, if you will, the devotional, and doing that exercise, it brought up something in my spirit. It was like how it's been lost, it seems, on Christianity, and just America in general, I guess, but the American church, that boldness doesn't have to be loud. You know, often, I mean, fear always has to be loud in your face, always has to control your senses in a sense. But boldness doesn't have to be, courage doesn't have to be loud and boisterous, and confident, and confidence doesn't have to be you up on a stage delivering, whatever, a powerful oration to a huge crowd, or or debating on the world stage, some matter of great importance. Courage and boldness is simply saying, acknowledging that the object that would inspire fear is just that. It's just something that will inspire fear, but regardless of how much you fear it, it still has to be dealt with. And the difference between, if you go into it in fear, like you were talking about, you're defeated. If you go into it with courage, it's, you with confidence, you have the upper hand in that fight. What I love about the David and Goliath story is, I think we've talked about it on here before, but Malcolm Gladwell, who's also, I don't believe that he is a believer, he brings out of that story something that I've never heard a Christian talk about before this, that David had the upper hand in that fight from the beginning. If you look at, I mean, whatever scientists are looking back now, or anthropologists or whatever, and they're pretty sure that Goliath was like half blind, probably didn't have a lot of mobility. And David with the sling was more deadly, especially at a distance, than Goliath would have ever been at that distance. Because I mean, it's essentially, he has a rifle in his hand is what it was, especially like the stones in that valley are twice as dense as the same type of stone.
Have you seen
places.
someone
That's
actually
insane.
use one of those slings?
Oh yeah,
It cracks
nuts,
like
man.
a gun, dude.
Dude, it's insane. I watched a guy actually use it, and that thing went through stone. It just wedged all the way in there. I was like, oh.
And because they said with those stones, with a sling with the stone that he would have found in that valley, had the stopping power of a 45.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
I believe it, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So when God said get one stone, he meant you only need one stone.
We
got 45s.
Get a headshot. You're good.
Dude. But David picked up 5 because, as we know, there were 4. Goliath had 4 brothers too, and that was
he's like, got one for each of you. Bring it.
Gosh.
Exactly.
Or however, I don't know how you were it.
Dude, and they could run. Not to take away. It's just so cool. Like they could run while they're loaded. Like he's just running circles around Goliath, and Goliath got to turn with all his armor. Make his 2 shield bearers move with them. He's dude, that's crazy.
Jabba the Hutt style.
Just gotta turn this kid's. Why is he already over there?
So that's crazy. But Goliath's main thing that he had going for him was fear.
Yeah,
he was large. He had a lot. Yeah, he talked a lot, loud voice, very threatening at a distance. But David approached with confidence, and he saw, oh, all right, I really do have the upper hand here. Dude. And that's not to say that God wasn't on David's side.
Oh, yeah.
God already knew what Goliath was. That's probably why it was such an insult to hear Goliath say those things about the God of Israel, or about him, for God to hear that about himself, because he's like, are you kidding me? It's like, it's like the dude with, what's it? Monty Python and the Black Knight. Just a flesh wound. He's sitting there. He's all nubs. Come over here. I'll bite your knees off. That's essentially who was talking crap about God and Israel. So the army that represents who they believe to be the one true God did not believe that he could give them victory over that one enemy. They were all too afraid.
Dude.
So it was somebody who was not a part of the army. He was a warrior, but he had that confidence. He knew that about himself. He had prepared himself, but it took somebody outside of the army to go and deal with it because everybody in the army were talking to each other.
Yeah.
And they
all got yep.
They all spoke
Jeez,
fear to each
dude.
other.
Their
Dude.
minds were all corrupt, dude.
Yeah.
One all it takes is one bad apple, man.
Yeah.
It really does. Like one person can sow so much doubt, like
Yeah.
wormwood or worm tongue.
Yeah.
Worm tongue and
Is that
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
just
Sick.
speak into that king, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it does.
Yeah.
I love that representation.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
dude, it's so true, you know? And then God comes in and it's like night and day.
Yeah.
And what I love too is how God, if the enemy uses fear, God uses shame. God will shame them with a boy.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I'll bring in someone who as a warrior in his own right,
Right.
who has definitely done these great deeds. I mean, you got a few people that have killed a lion and everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
So it's like, he's done these crazy acts,
Mhm.
of feats of strength. So
Yeah.
he knows his own capabilities, but no one else really sees that. And
Yeah.
so like God is going to use the things that would shame the wise of this world,
Mhm.
and he's going to use it for his glory.
Right.
Exactly.
Because then David goes on to be king and he gives all the glory to God.
Mhm.
And that's how God glories in that. Like
right.
it's just so cool how he uses shame.
Yeah.
Like he shames the wise.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love
right.
it.
Well, and what's so cool about that is you look at the armies of Israel, the army of Israel, who should be looking at the legacy of Israel at that point.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, everything God had already done for them, all the victories he had given them, brought them out of Egypt. This whole people that, this whole nation God brought out of
Mhm.
Egypt. But because they hadn't exercised their gifts, essentially their jobs,
Yeah.
they did not believe that they were capable of what God had set them up to be. Whereas David
Mm.
was, he's watching sheep. He's slinging stones. He's fighting off, wild animals much bigger and more powerful than him.
Yeah.
And so he has something to look back on. He has experiences, multiple experiences to look back on and say, God, you helped me get through this. God, you helped me get through this. I'd be an idiot not to think that you would get me through that. You've already proved yourself twice,
Right. Right.
and so instead of selling out his confidence for comfort,
Mm.
he knew what he was to do and just said, okay, this looks scary from here, but I don't know, hold my cheese. I'm going to go and take care of this.
Yes. Dude, I hope he said that. Hold my cheese.
I got this.
He just walks out there. B.A., man. Hold
One
my
thing
cheese.
that the book also talks about with athletes that rise above the rest is their memory, right?
Mm,
David and the army, they all probably had things to draw from their memory.
mhm.
David had the previous altercations with wild beasts,
Right.
Yeah.
who he got an upper hand with. And all of Israel had memories, things that they could look, like you said,
Yeah.
coming out of Egypt. Even the act of, while that was happening, the nation of Israel, the Hebrew people, wouldn't remember what God just did. They would remember, we had onions back then. They would
Right.
remember being slaves. They wouldn't remember
Yeah.
being freed people.
Dang.
Right.
And the book talks about, like, remember your victories.
Right.
What if David remembered every time he missed with a slingshot?
Oof.
Dude, he
Yeah.
wouldn't have, or not
Right.
a slingshot, but the sling. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I think we call it slingshot, but
We might
that's-
have.
we did.
Spinny thing.
Sling.
Not pulley
Yeah.
thingy.
Sling. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, always remember your victories. Don't remember your failures.
That's
Right.
good, man.
Don't remember those.
Mhm.
They're not gonna. they're
Right.
not gonna
Well,
give you
especially
anything.
like at least the common theory. I don't know that this has been proven, but the common theory, at least, is that the pyramids were built with slave labor.
Yeah.
That's the
Who
common
was
theory.
slaves? Who are the slaves in this situation? The Israelites. They
Yeah.
literally built these probably these giant pyramids And then God took them out. So they're capable with their own hands, and they're even more capable to then leave out of their captors' hands, led by God, into the promised land. And then they're like, no, we can't make it into the promised land. So God killed off, the whole generation of doubters and then brought them back into against Jericho and going into that land.
Mhm.
There was all that
all the ites,
but the walls of Jericho fell down straight down into the ground, and they were able to run in and defeat them.
Mm-hmm.
That's another military victory.
Yeah.
That they chose to ignore because there was one guy that was scary looking.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
And it only took 2 guys to stand up and be like, no, we got this. Like, right. God is our God.
You're talking about Jericho, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, like, it's so powerful, man. These few weeks I've been remembering like the great paint jobs, right?
Yeah.
The ones that I got compliments on from like the owners of the car, like this car's color is really difficult. I didn't think you'd get it so good, thank you, whatever. That's remembering awesome. Those instead of the car that I had to repaint, whatever, 6 times, you know what I mean? Like that, I'm not gonna remember that anymore.
Right, dude.
And seeing the effect of that, dude, like the other painter that I work with, and when he doesn't get a car right, and then he's like dragging, dude, and then I see this, and I'm just like, that's the fruit, man, of that, of remembering.
Yeah.
The things that God has done for you, like the things that God has given you and that you can now do, and remembering that over your few failures, like so powerful.
Dude, you know what's interesting about that is there's a scripture that says, in your current darkness, remember the darkness that God brought you from, because it was worse than what you're going through right now.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and dude, you could look at that even as a victory. Like, dude, you've come from so much worse. You know? Remember what you came through when you were younger. Remember when you came through when you were a kid or in your teens and like all this stuff.
Man.
And you're upset, you're about to paint this crazy thing. It's like, oh, dude, I don't know. It's like, no. Remember what, I mean,
jeez. Well, like
whatever
remember
it is.
that, and this is cake.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember that, and what is this, dude? Like it's cake. It's like the ones that went to spy, and then it was how many? And then the one said that it was cake. Literally.
Yeah. Well, you talking about when
the two?
Joshua
okay.
and Caleb.
Yeah. Was that when the girl told him to hide?
That was
or
different.
No, that was so Joshua and Caleb and the 10. That was the first time when God was sending them into the promised land.
Okay.
And then they all doubted, and so they had to wander the desert for 40 years, and everybody except Joshua and Caleb died off in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Rahab and Jericho was the second time when they were going in to take what they should have taken 40 years ago.
Right. Okay.
See, dude, confidence.
Dude.
Give you a few more years too, bro.
Yeah.
And then Joshua went on to lead Israel.
Dude,
and, Caleb was right up there with him too.
Dude.
One thing that I thought was awesome in the book was he was talking about the goalie that had, I can't remember if it was soccer or what the sport was.
Oh, it was hockey.
Was it hockey?
Okay.
Yeah. She just had to accept that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was lacrosse.
That makes more sense because it was like 6 goals a game or something.
Yeah.
That she's going to get scored on. That's part of the game. But what would separate her is still remembering the times that she did well, the times that she succeeded, and focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other stuff, that's just part of it.
Right.
Messing up a paint job once or twice, that's just part of it.
Yeah.
But then not thinking, okay, I messed up last time, and the time before that I can't do it again. I got to try. I hope it turns out okay. But you're focusing on those bad things. So it's like baseball. The ball's coming at you. If you're looking at where the ball went last time you hit it, you fouled it, or you struck out. If you're not watching where the ball's coming, if you don't keep your eye on the ball, you have zero chance. I mean, you have a random chance of just swinging and maybe hitting it. But we're talking, but that's statistically impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
Is how they would say it. So if you're worried about, if you're keeping your eye on what happened last time, you have zero chance realistically of succeeding.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like you could, I mean, in business and success and all that in that area, they always talk about how it can take like 100 fails before you get one success.
Mhm.
But that one success is going to be the thing that you need to get everything started.
Yeah.
So why even focus on the 100 fails?
Right.
Like, if it happens again and you fail again, you just keep going. You don't really take it as a loss. You learn from it, but that's what we inquire as wisdom. You know,
Good. Not taking it as a loss. Like, okay, I know what not to do.
Yeah.
And I know what works in that situation.
Okay, that's one more lesson learned.
It's like boxing.
Yeah.
If the dude swings hard with his right hand, you're going to learn for next time he cocks that arm back.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, he's going for, a straight right.
Yeah.
It's like, duck. Rafiki taught us that, man. It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Nice.
Dude.
Good reference. Good reference.
I mean, age old adage, man.
Age old wisdom right there for sure.
My thought as we're talking right now is like, where would the church in America be if we had that confidence in God that we're supposed to have, right?
Yeah.
If we had that confidence in Him that we're supposed to have, like that David had, right? Like, God's got my back, or the 4 Hebrew boys that got sent into the 3 Hebrew boys. Sorry, well there was 4
in the furnace.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah,
bro.
dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like what they say.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Benjamin.
I like
See,
that.
4, dude.
I like I'm sorry, man. I forgot Benjamin was in there.
Dude, Benji.
He was the younger brother, so they didn't bring him around as much.
Right.
They said God's gonna save us, and even if He doesn't, that doesn't keep God from existing,
dude.
That's complete confidence in God, dude.
That's the one part everyone always forgets to say in that story. They say, even if He doesn't. Like, I love that. Like, it doesn't discount our God at all. You know? Like, glory to Him. Either way, He wins.
Yeah.
So it's just like, dude, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then, like, I choose to believe that they went in there with complete confidence in God, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, that's always been my justification for having the faith I do in God, even when doubt tries to creep in. It's like, okay, so we're looking at either I spent my entire life in service of God, and He in the end, or whatever, and He fails me in the end, and I die. I'm still going to heaven. I didn't miss out on anything. I'm still in the end, I still win. Whether I get to see His plan for my life, or what I believe His plan for my life is played out or not, either way I win in the end.
Heck yeah.
So worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, I end up in heaven. Like that's those are good odds. I'll take that.
Some are gonna get in by the skin of their teeth.
And they're going to be American. Yeah. All the people that are like walking in with plenty of clearance, they're probably not Americans.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, dude. When you said, "What would the church look like?" I was about to be like, dude, it would look like the church that's in China right now.
Right.
Dang.
They're the ones. And just,
dude.
most of the other countries, like most third world countries, are like actual Christians, man.
Yeah.
They're persecuted daily, killed, and they fight for it.
Yeah.
Like, they fight for their belief, man. And it every time I hear about that, it's just like, it pains me as a Christian that I'm like, why am I not like that? Every single day of my life, you know? And it's just so that, dude, that's what it would be. Just a church like that is an unstoppable church, an unstoppable body.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you can be that. You just have to identify the enemy in your life. And I don't mean internally. I mean and it doesn't sound as cool. It doesn't sound as, Rambo to be like, yeah, over there, they're facing like the government or whatever, this nefarious entity coming, trying to take them out for their faith. And over here, we're struggling with laziness. We're fighting sedentary lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but if you have the courage and the, what's the word? vigilance to attack those things in your life, then you will be that level of disciplined Christian, who is on fire for God. I don't even like saying on fire for God, because that's always, anybody who's referring to that, it generally is like, it ends up being like a flash in the pan. It's not, but
yeah, dude.
But truly what, truly being on fire for God that's how you sustain it. It's by getting out there and seeking out your enemy, not sitting back and just waiting to be attacked.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, man. Dang.
The best defense is always a good offense.
Right.
There's I'm sorry, but there's no sitting in war. There's no sitting in a battle, in a fight.
Well, not if you're winning. If
yeah.
you're gonna win.
Even it just always, if you move forward, you have more of a chance of winning.
Right.
Every time. It's just, I don't know. It's funny to me when I think about stuff like that. You said vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
What you guys have been talking about, and I don't know where it is in the Bible, but like when it was the crazy number of warriors, and God said, only take the ones that don't put their sword down, right? And they scoop water up.
Yeah.
That vigilance, dude.
Yeah.
It's so good, man.
Dude, and that goes, I'm not sure if he says it in the same book, or later, but he talks about the watchers. Like, you need to be vigilant. If you're protecting the king, if you're protecting the people, the guard, anyone, whoever you are, if you're the person put on watch, you have more of a job to do.
Right.
You're keeping everyone safe. If you don't say like something is coming from afar, and you don't wake everybody up, you don't get everybody's attention, you don't, do your job, it's such a disgrace. You had zero confidence in your vigilance and your ability to see what was coming.
Wow,
and help everybody out.
Yeah.
Everyone's now dead.
Dude, one of the biggest, most helpful things that I've ever done for myself, I don't remember where I heard it, but it was so key, is like trust your gut, right? In vigilance,
yeah, dude,
always trust that gut. It's not even a voice. It's nothing. It's just like, I don't know, but I need to leave.
Dude,
it's just a knowing.
That feeling, dude.
Yeah.
And always being confident, that has helped me so much, even in decisions and things, just random stuff.
Yeah, man.
It's just that gut, and now it's automatic, dude. I don't even think about it. Look, nope, we're gonna go with this one, or we're gonna go that one, kind of thing,
Yeah,
for sure.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
Some deep stuff, dude.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I think we should cut this here and continue this topic next time. What do you guys say?
What?
Down,
I think we can keep going. I know I can.
Yeah.
Let's do it, dude.
A couple more things. Anyways,
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right, man. All right. We'll cut it there.
Yeah.
This has been the 317 podcast. My name is Titus. I'm here with my co-hosts, Victor and Mike. We are every 2 weeks. We put up new material, except like I said, last week we got a little behind. But we put out a new episode every 2 weeks. And basically we're three guys in our 30s just working out our faith and life and all that together, letting you listen in on our conversations. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, we got a comment section on YouTube and on Rumble.
Yeah.
You can watch either place, or if you're just doing audio, you can hit up our Instagram. It's a little neglected, but it's there. You can rate and review us on any platform you're listening to this on. We always appreciate hearing that, and it helps us out. And until next time, choose confidence.
Later.